Why do you have a reason to move away from the hot steaming water? Because you thinking she crazy and she might douse you with that water. Why would you automatically assume that she's going to douse you with the water? What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. I go by Harry Billion. A lot of you have already heard about the Sonya Massey shooting, the murder of Sonya Massey by a police officer. For the most part, I believe there's a consensus that it was wrong. Just like everything that happens to black people, some people think it was justified. There was this young lady that made a video explaining why she felt it was justified. Let me play the video and then we'll break it down and we'll talk about it.
So there's body camera footage, at least from the one officer. One officer did not turn his body camera on until after. The one officer did have his body camera on the whole time. So yes, there are some issues with that, but that really doesn't have any bearing on how this played out. So she called them. They came, they searched, they couldn't find anybody or locate anybody, and they were actually getting ready to go when they saw a vehicle parked in her driveway. I'm not sure all of the details surrounding that. Ultimately, I know they began to ask her about it, and they actually entered her home at that point and asked her for some identification. Again, I don't really know all of the specifics behind that, but it was still a very light conversation. She was responding to them, talking to them. They were talking and having a normal conversation. There was no indication of what was about to unfold. So the body camera footage, I mean, it's not all direct. This is coming in bits and pieces, but eventually it gets to the point where you see her standing up and there's a pot of boiling water on her stove. So I'm sure you guys have seen the videos. I don't have a video to link into this right now. I may try to, but so the cop tells her to go shut the boiling water off because he doesn't want a fire to happen, to which she replies, okay. So she goes over there and she shuts the stove off. At this point, she picks up the pot of boiling water. And she begins to walk with it towards the cops. And the cop asks her, what are you doing? Still in a lighthearted manner. And at this point, she's still walking in their direction. And you can see the cop on the body camera turn. He takes his front side away from her. And she's like, why are you turning? And he's like, because I don't want hot water to the face. And at that point, she says, I rebuke you. You can't really hear it too well, but that's what the transcripts say in news articles. And so he's like, huh? And at that point, she says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. He said, you better not. And at that point, they draw their guns. At that point, she puts her hand up. So there's a counter, an island in between her and the cops. At this point, the pot is back on the counter. She puts her hands up and the cops have their weapons saying, I will shoot you in your face, because she just had the pot of water rebuking them, which can all be considered acts of aggression. And that pot of boiling water can be considered a weapon. So a pot of water, boiling hot water, can be considered a weapon that can cause very serious and permanent damage to somebody and could potentially result in death if they get second or third degree burns and those turn septic and cause an infection. So first, that is the first weapon that she had in her hands. Like I said, she was walking towards the cops. There was absolutely no reason that she needed to take this pot of boiling water and walk with it off the stove. She could have just pushed it onto a different burner. She could have just set it on the counter and left it there, set it in the sink. She did not need to walk in the direction of the cops. So that is considered the weapon. She told them, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, while coming with them with this boiling hot pot of water. Okay, that could be considered an act of aggression, which is why the cops drew their weapons. At this point, no shots have been fired.
So I just wanted to point out that at no point did she walk in the direction of the cops, because there's, like she says, there's an island. So if there's an island, she walks over to the sink, not in the direction of the cops, because she would have then had to walk around the same way that she got there. She would have had to walk in that direction. At no point in the video does she walk around in the direction of the cops. So she's not telling the story the way that it should be told. Not at all. All right. So let's just make sure that we are clear on that. But I'll break it down in a second so you can see what I'm talking about.
So she then has a weapon drawn and he says, I will shoot you in your face. Okay. So at this point, she is visibly scared. She sets down the pot of water and she puts her hands up. She still has oven mitts on. At this point, and this is the key crucial point, you guys, she then ducks. She ducks down.
So this girl got all her facts all kinds of messed up. If she's putting the pot down, then why do they have a need to keep telling her to drop the pot? Her information, if she's gonna be a criminal defense lawyer, I can't help her. I don't know, but her facts are all over the place. I know she's trying to recollect the story as she's trying to have her talk, and all of the facts may not be, 100%, but she doesn't drop the pot and then they continue doing what they're doing, right? The idea was drop the pot. They do what they do and off her. They're still saying drop the pot. So which one do you want?
Below the counter to where you can no longer see her. On the body camera, you can no longer see her or her hands, okay? That is a huge no-no with the cops, especially when they have their guns drawn. You do not take your hands out of sight. They need to make sure that you do not have a weapon in your hands. So right there, when she ducked down and they could no longer see her hands and no longer determine that she was not a threat and did not have a weapon, they had every right to exercise deadly force how they did. If she would have just froze and she would have just stayed still, she probably would be alive today. And if she wasn't, when cold-blooded murder occurs. But right now, the facts of the case are still coming in, and this is going to go to trial. But people are so quick to get their emotions in this type of case, and I get it. It's an unfortunate event that really did not need to happen. There were errors on both sides. The cops never should have had her go shut the stove off. They could have just done that themselves. There was 2 of them. And unfortunately, she lost her life in the process. They immediately called for aid. They immediately said that shots were fired. Yes, he told them not to perform life-saving measures. Her face was kind of missing at that point. So I don't know all the details surrounding that, but the moments leading up to the shooting and the actual shooting may actually be considered justified. So they are going to go to court over this. They are going to be heard by a jury of their peers, and people will decide. I would like to maybe compare this slightly towards the Breonna Taylor situation. People were definitely outraged by that. The people were calling those cops killers, murderers, this, that, and the other. They all got acquitted because they were shooting in self-defense. And that's one thing that people have to realize is these cops were acting in self-defense. They had no way of knowing if she had a weapon at her hands below that counter. This all happened within a matter of seconds, literally seconds. So they had to decide instantly. And unfortunately, they made a deadly decision. But I don't know if it was an unjust, deadly decision. So with that being said, this is how a lawyer is going to argue it. I'm actually in school studying law, and I would like to become a criminal defense attorney. So if I was this person's lawyer, this is exactly how I would argue this case.
Was something that happened earlier.
Okay, perfect. What is your last name? Shouldn't have to think about your last name. You're not in trouble. I just need to
Massey. Massey.
Yeah. You have an ID? That'd make things so much easier. I just need just a driver's license will do, and then I'll get out of your hair.
I want to show y'all my paperwork.
I will get your paperwork.
What paperwork?
Okay. I got some paperwork.
Well, just get your ID.
Well, let's get your ID first, and then...
One task at a time here.
Okay. Let me
Here, grab your ID for me.
Okay.
Your ID. One task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your paperwork.
I don't know where my ID is.
You can that stack right there, maybe?
Okay. 1 second.
Check on her.
Let me do this.
We don't need a fire while we're here.
Alright. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of
You better fucking not. I swear to God, I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the fucking pot!
The fucking...
Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot!
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the fucking pot! Bring EMS now. We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female. 1078.
was on. I'm gonna go get my kit.
No, your headshot, dude. You're done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot.
This is where the young lady is trying to make the case that there's an island and the police officers are not able to see over the island. And when Massey ducks down, her hands are hiding and she could be reaching for another weapon somewhere. So if we take a look at this, the police officers see where we're looking at right there on your screen. On your screen, you see the stove with the hot water. So let me draw back a little bit and put this into perspective. At this point, she has some erratic behavior. They are aware of her erratic behavior. She's a little disheveled. The family knows that she has mental illness problems, or she has issues with mental illness. It is possible that she could have had an episode right before they came, or that was what was going on when they arrived. Now, I don't know if the police officers are trained to be able to spot situations like this. I think there should be. Whenever you're going into a situation as a police officer, you're supposed to assume a lot of different things. Danger, anything. You literally can assume here that there's something going on with her mentally. So you as a police officer, you're not going to be taking this situation and treating it like I would treat it, in the sense where I'm looking at you like you crazy. This is where you have to now apply that grace, understanding your profession. You have to say, okay, there is something going on here. You make that mental note, and then you start to move in a way where you try to provide some type of assistance to this person who could be possibly having a mental episode. Maybe if we're not experts on mental illness, maybe we try to, help her in a different way. But as a cop and as a professional, they obviously know that's what's going on here. The reason why I say that is because the other cop, he steps back, try to make sure that he was not in proximity. If she was to happen to just throw that water, that the water would not hit him. You got the oven, and there's a blue bucket, what seems like a blue bucket sitting right there. There's some stuff on the counter. There's a chair. The two officers that see the space that we're looking at, are they thinking that there's a weapon in the bucket? Is there a weapon in the cabinet that's next to the stove? Is there a weapon in the stove? We don't know any of that, right? If I was to take her specific words, what she was suggesting was the officers were not privy to what's behind the island. They could not see what's behind the island. That's the story that she was trying to sell us. But it's obvious that we see where the stove is at, and the officer that backed up, he sees her also. So he would know whether she's ducking down to reach in the bucket, to open up the cabinet, the bottom cabinet, to open up the oven, to see if there's a weapon in there. He sees what's going on. She's down. So he sees that. Let's play it a little further. This angle right here where she's standing at, the bucket's right next to her. The blue bucket is sitting right there. The island is further away. Let's keep going. So here's where I would agree with the young lady. You were asked to turn the stove off. All you have to do is turn the stove off, get back over to where you were looking for your ID. Why she picks the pot up, I have no idea. But again, consider her mental condition. What is she going through mentally? What episode is she having? So I get that part. I understand from a human perspective, you don't know who this person is. You don't have their medical history. You don't know what's going on. All you're doing is reacting to every single moment that's going on. We don't know why she picked up the pot. She just picks it up. When she picks up the pot, the officer with the camera on backs up because he's already assessed that there is some mental situation going on. There's something on the stove and the fire is a threat. If you are considering her as a threat, the best thing for you as an officer to make sure that you are protected, because you have no idea what's in the house. You as an officer do not want her walking around that house because you don't know what's in the house. You want to make sure that you keep her in a place where you can see her. And if you had an issue with the stove, just tell your guy, hey, turn that stove off. We don't want no fire. We want her staying right here. They could have done that, all right? They didn't do that. I mean, I know she's not a lawyer yet. She's not a forensic lawyer. She doesn't understand. She's just kind of giving her opinion. That's all it is. She's giving her reaction. I'm giving my reaction. That's all we're all doing here. Public opinion and how people see things, and we're always trying to be on one side of the fence, and some people are feeling this way, others are feeling this way, and sometimes empathy and sympathy, depending on who it is, if it happened to you, if it didn't happen to you, you'll react to it accordingly. Her assessment assessment of they couldn't see over the island and she ducks down and with her hands and she could have been trying to get a weapon, we can easily debunk that. It looks like she picks up the water. Either she was cooking corn, potatoes, or something, and she's about to dump the water. So she goes over to the sink. Something else that we can read into this, the cop that moved back, he's already thinking she's crazy. The erratic behavior, the way that she's moving, he's already determined in his mind that this lady's crazy. So when she picks up the water to go over to the sink to dump the water, he interprets that as a potential threat to throw the water at him. We don't know what's in the pot. Like I said, she could have been cooking something and she was probably just about to drain the water. If you cook, you know what I'm talking about. I'll tell you one thing. If the cop that has the camera on does not react like she's crazy, she possibly about to throw that water at me, then nothing happens. Then she's probably going to drain the water, put the pot back on the stove, and then go back over to what they were doing. That's what's happening here. So because he's already determined that she's crazy, he backs up. And that's when she asks him, where are you going? What are you doing? Keep in mind, she's watching their body language as well. She's already nervous. They're police officers. They got guns. They're asking her questions. She's starting to feel like, well, I'm not the perp or I'm not the person that was prowling around my house. Why are you guys asking me all these questions? And then their behavior start to, put question marks in her head as well. Like, why are they doing what they're doing? She's thinking like, why are they moving this way? So now she's looking around. If you look at her in this footage, she's looking around like, what are you doing? Like, why are you moving like they're moving? She's in her house. She's just thinking like, I'm just moving normal. They're moving weird to her. So she's looking at them, they're looking at her. In their mind, they're thinking like, this lady's a little crazy. So they're moving according to what they're thinking in their heads about how crazy they think that she is. And she's watching them too, and she's thinking they're crazy too. Like, what is going on with them? And if she's a Christian, like she said, I rebuke you, she's already saying prayers in her head. Like, Lord, I hope nothing happens to me. She's already saying that prayer. See, he's laughing. The cop is laughing. He's like, ha, ha, ha. He's laughing to his buddy. Keep in mind, like, the killer, he points to the other cop, right? So they're having nonverbal communication. They're going back and forth. They're eyeing each other, telling each other, like, yo, what's going on? They don't know her medical history. The way that she's moving is a little weird to them. They're giving each other eye contact. They're giving these signals and they're talking. That's why he starts to laugh. When she asks him, like, why are you moving? He says, away from the hot steaming water. Why do you have a reason to move away from the hot steaming water? Because you thinking she crazy and she might douse you with that water. Why would you automatically assume that she's going to douse you with the water? Right here, right now, she is standing by the sink. That stove was on high, very high. The blue light was under there. It was hot. So she's got the oven mitts. At this point, you would now come over and try to drain that water out of the corn, the potatoes, or whatever it is you were cooking. This cop that's standing right on the left-hand side already has his hands on the. He is far away from her, not even close to her. All he has to do is step back like his friend did. He's not stepping back. He's approaching like with his. While you have your hands on your waist, you ready to. And then they get triggered with, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus because of your movements. You're moving weird to her. In your brain, she's moving weird. In her brain, you're moving weird. And you're the authority figure. And you're moving weird. Moving weirdly or whatever. So she's already peeped game. She's probably already spotted y'all making these weird interaction movements and your eye contact, the weird things you're doing. Because she's looking up at y'all while y'all are questioning her. She's seeing what y'all are seeing. She's fully aware. So when she saw you moving back and laughing and y'all doing whatever your weird nonverbal communication y'all are doing, she's like, why are you moving? When she says, I rebuke you, whatever that is for them, why that's a trigger for them, I have no idea why that's a trigger for them. So who's the crazy one in this scenario? Who's the crazy one? She says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, and he's triggered right away. For a cop, a professional, to be triggered by those meaningless words, you should revisit the training that you have. Why are you so easily triggered with words like, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus? For a cop to be so easily triggered with words. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a content creator. I'm in the comments when I have live videos. People come and they say a bunch of crazy stuff. They call me all kinds of names. And I've had to learn early on in my YouTube journey that I cannot be affected by what people are telling me all the time. I'm human, so I'm naturally going to respond. But some of the things that they say, now I just don't take them seriously. So cops should have the same type of training where you cannot be so easily triggered because your number one job is to de-escalate situations. When you go into a situation, you cannot be the one that is easily triggered. And even if she threw the water from where she's standing at and where you're standing at, that water would not reach you. The second that she did the motion to throw that water, you would have probably stepped back anyway. It wouldn't have mattered to you because you're a man. Bar fights, all sorts of situations that men are in. You've been in worse situations than this in high school. This is a harmless lady. Yeah, I understand that you don't know what she's capable of doing and she's been moving a little erratic for you. You are not that close to her. You can look at this so many different ways. So whether it was justified or it wasn't justified, there are different types of people out here. Some are so politically inundated. What side is right? What side is wrong? Don't jump to conclusion. Wait for all of the evidence to come out. You got all kinds of people out there. When something happens to them, they don't want to wait till all the evidence comes out. They're going to just jump right to conclusion like humans do. Human beings are human beings. They're going to just jump to conclusion. In a situation like this, what exactly are you advising me to do? To turn off being human first and wait and then be human afterwards? We're not conditioned to wait till the evidence come out before we actually have our real human reaction. After the evidence comes out, we can adjust our emotions. But y'all got it backwards. When you tell somebody do not react with emotion first, you're telling the person don't be a human first, be a human later. But that's not how this works. It don't work this way. They made her nervous unnecessarily. Whether she should have just let the pot go, drop the pot, put the pot down. Listen, we don't know why she did not do that. We don't know that. But stop suggesting people who are reacting, especially black people who are reacting to the situation the way that we are reacting. Stop suggesting that black people should stop having emotions about something that they just saw and they just feel like it's unjust. What the people are reacting to are not what you're thinking. People are just reacting to what they just saw. Simple as that. We all have opinions and we're all giving our opinions. I understand what she's doing. She's giving her opinion based on what she thinks happened. And so are we. So am I. I think when it comes to justification, I think you have to look at justification from different angles. People are going to look at this. They're going to say, when you say this was justified, people are going to look at this and say, oh, so it was okay for them to just shoot her. She's trying her best to try to understand what the law is going to interpret this as. But that's the empathy thing. Oftentimes, when something happens, it didn't happen to you, or it didn't happen to your community, or it didn't happen to somebody close to you. It's very easy for us to then go to the law. So a lot of people are looking for empathy, not necessarily for you to tell them about the law. I got that video from somebody else's reaction, so I didn't really go to her comments. I'm sure her account is either deleted by now or the comments are turned off or something. I can imagine that the comments are not going to be great because you cannot come out that soon, that early and say it's justified and then try to tell a group of people who are mourning and looking at a situation that reminds them of another situation, of 1,000 of other situations, and try to add your voice to the conversation in public and say it was justified. Maybe allow some time to happen. When you don't have empathy for people, you can't sympathize with a group of people. The first thing you want to do is to tell that group of people to chill out, look at the results before you react. I don't think she functions that way at all. If somebody walked up to your girlfriend and smacked her in the face, I guarantee you, your first reaction is going to be anger. It's going to be pointing the finger at the person that slapped her. Your first reaction is not going to be, let's wait for all the evidence to come out before we make any type of reaction. Why in the world did you just do that? What the heck did you just do? You're going to be angry. You probably try to swing if you were next to her. You're not going to ask questions. You're not going to think otherwise. You're just going to react. If somebody was to come out and start saying, hey girl, wait for the evidence. You don't know if seconds before that happened, she smacked this lady's baby. You don't know that. She was drunk and she smacked this lady's baby and just walked away and didn't say anything. We just got the evidence. At first, they were being told it was self-inflicted. They tried to spin it at first. They didn't even know that it was the cops that did it. So what's the reason why they try to spin it at first? We don't think about those reasons. It's always the people, the community that's mourning, who are told to wait for the evidence. But when something happens to Gaza, the Palestinians, when something happens to other communities that they're going through something, people are telling all of us to gather around that community. Their initial reaction is never to wait for the evidence. Whenever something happens in the black community, people always comes out and say, pump the brakes, look at the evidence, wait for the evidence. It just keeps happening. It keeps happening. Look at your community. If something happens to you, look into your community. Look at how you respond to situations. Empathy can be shown by not saying something, by not going out in public and saying it was justified, even if you feel like it was justified. So if you empathize with the community, if you empathize with the family, you will not make a video and put it out on social media and further inflame the emotions and the feelings that people are having out there, especially the family who's still reeling from this, the family that's still mourning from this. They have to now look at a video by some young lady saying that it was justified that their family member was taken away from them. I'm Harry Billion. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see y'all on the next video.